Okay, let's jump right into the big hurdles that Black entrepreneurs are up against today. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the systemic barriers they're facing, but then we're going to look back at this incredible historical model that might, just might, hold the key to the future.
So first things first, we got to get the lay of the land. For all the talk we hear about supporting entrepreneurship, Black business owners are trying to navigate a system with some really deep-rooted obstacles, not just to get started, but, and this is so important, to actually grow and scale their businesses.
This one quote from an entrepreneur in a recent study just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly sums up the core problem. There's plenty of advice out there, tons of workshops, lots of mentorship. But you know what? Advice doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't fund expansion. The real bottleneck is cash. It's capital.
And that struggle for capital, it starts right here, with this absolutely staggering racial wealth gap. When the median Black household has just 1/10 the wealth of a white household, it basically cuts off that first crucial source of funding that so many businesses depend on, that friends and family round.
Okay, so what happens when entrepreneurs look for outside money, from banks or investors? Well, this data shows the gap gets even wider. Only 14% of Black entrepreneurs get the full amount of funding they ask for. That's less than half the rate for white entrepreneurs. Just think about what that really means for a business. You're constantly trying to execute a big, ambitious vision with a tiny budget.
Right, so the main thing to get here is that these aren't just individual struggles or bad luck. They form a pattern of systemic barriers. We're talking about bias in lending decisions, huge difficulties in landing those big government contracts that can really stabilize a company, and weaker social networks, which often means you just don't know the people who are writing the big checks. It's really easy to look at all these problems and think we need to invent some brand new, complex solution, but what if we don't have to? What if the blueprint for smashing through these exact challenges has been around for over 100 years, just kind of waiting for us to dust it off?
To find that blueprint, we actually need to go back in time. We're heading to the early 1900s, to a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that built one of the most successful Black economies in all of American history, the Greenwood district.
And this isn't just some historical footnote. A new book called Black to the Future argues this exact point, that the story of Greenwood, which most of us know as Black Wall Street, isn't just a history lesson. It's a real, actionable guide for building wealth and community right now.
Greenwood was just an incredible achievement. Seriously, picture this. We're talking about a neighborhood spanning more than 35 city blocks. It was a totally self-sufficient world with everything from luxury hotels, movie theaters, and a modern hospital to its own banks and a great school system, all of it built and owned by Black entrepreneurs. And this right here, this was the engine behind their success. It's estimated that every single dollar circulated inside Greenwood at least 30 times before it ever left the community. They built this powerful circular economy. A dollar spent at the grocery store would go to the grocer, who then paid the doctor, who then bought a new suit from the tailor. That cycle just kept wealth growing inside the community, which created unbelievable economic independence.
So the big question is, how did they pull this off? Well, it wasn't an accident. It was a strategy. The authors of Black to the Future boil it all down to 6 core principles, or pillars, that were the absolute foundation of their thriving economy. And when you look at these 6 pillars, you see right away that this was a truly holistic vision. This wasn't just about starting a few businesses. No, this was about creating the entire infrastructure to support them. They focused on resources, like capital. They championed collaboration over cutthroat competition. They invested heavily in education and healthcare. And they built robust systems for communication and, this is key, ownership. It was all connected.
And this was all driven by these amazing visionary founders. O.W. Gurley, for instance, didn't just sell land. He sold it exclusively to other Black people to build a community. And he even gave them loans to help them start their businesses. A.J. Smitherman's newspaper wasn't just for reporting the news. It was a tool for sharing business opportunities and legal info. They were intentionally, deliberately building an entire ecosystem.
So this brings us right back to where we started. How does a blueprint from 100 years ago solve the very modern problem of being over-mentored, but under-resourced and under-capitalized?
Well, the parallels are just stunning.
Take a look. Today's entrepreneurs have limited access to capital. Greenwood's founders literally provided it directly. Weak networks are a huge problem now. Greenwood was built from the ground up on collaboration. A lack of information holds people back. Greenwood's newspaper made sure everyone was in the loop. Their pillars directly solved today's biggest gaps.
So, the big lesson here is pretty clear. The support system for today's entrepreneurs has to evolve. It needs to shift from just providing information and advice to actively enabling implementation, giving people the actual concrete tools they need to get things done.
So what does being truly equipped look like today? Well, it's about taking those Greenwood pillars and turning them into modern tools. It means a 90-day execution plan, not just a vision board. It's a capital readiness checklist and a clear map to the right kind of funders. And just like Greenwood's focus on community wealth, it's about responsible entrepreneurship, strategies that grow a business without forcing you to risk your family's savings and home. It's about building real assets, not just creating a job for yourself.
You know, the story of Greenwood is this powerful reminder that when entrepreneurs have access not just to their own ambition, but to a supportive, intentional ecosystem, incredible growth is totally possible. The blueprint isn't lost. It's right there in our history. So the real question it leaves us with is this: what's it going to take from all of us, investors, communities, and entrepreneurs, to build it again